Aqua regia is a mixture of HCl and HNO3, nitric acid and HCl. 1,4 polyisoprene is nothing but natural rubber. Now what is the trend along the period and down the group for ionization enthalpy? When common ion effect is there, solubility of the weak electrolyte can be reduced. Aniline will not dissolve in water at 298 Kelvin. Hello my dear students, I am Priyanka Rajaram from Vidyashram PU College, Temple of Excellence. Here I am to solve Karnataka CET 2019 question paper on chemistry. Here in chemistry, we have 60 questions to be solved in 60 minutes. That means you get 1 minute per question. But in chemistry, there are some questions which can be asked on facts or some concepts, and you will not require 1 complete minute to solve such questions. Thus, you can get more than 1 minute for some of the numericals. In chemistry, you should be very clear with concepts as well as your memorizing skills should be really good. So, I shall also give you all some of the tricks to remember some of the concepts. Also, shortcuts to solve some of the problems. So, we will see what is in store for us. First question, what we have is, among the following, the main reactions occurring in blast furnace during extraction of iron from hematite ore are. So here the question is on extraction of iron. They have given us 4 reactions. We have to tell which are the main reactions which is happening in the blast furnace. So we will see what are the equations given. First one, we have Fe2O3 reacting with carbon monoxide to give iron and liberating carbon dioxide gas. Second one, FeO plus SiO2 giving FeSiO3C. Okay. The third question is Fe2O3 plus 3 carbon, that is coke, which is there to give iron and liberate carbon monoxide. And the last equation which is given is calcium oxide with silicon dioxide giving CaSiO3, calcium silicate. So, which do you think will actually happen in the blast furnace? I am sure you are very familiar with this concept. The first thing what you need to know here is, in extraction of iron, what is the reducing agent? We are adding coke, but then is coke directly reacting with the Fe2O3? No. What is reacting there? It is carbon monoxide which is reacting, correct? So, in the upper portion of the blast furnace, we have first reaction which is happening, correct? That is Fe2O3 reacts with carbon monoxide to give iron and carbon dioxide gas is liberated. We do not have the third equation at all, correct? Also, look into the second equation. Is such slag formed in extraction of iron? No. That's why even this reaction is wrong. But then CaO plus SiO3, that is calcium silicate, is the slag which is formed in the slag zone. So these two are the reactions which is actually happening, that is the first one and the fourth one. So look for the option with 1 and 4. It is option D. So option D is the correct answer. So if you are very clear with the concept, you know exactly what are the reactions happening in blast furnace, it is very easy to answer this question. It's a direct question which is asked from the extraction of iron. Okay. Next one. Which of the following pair contains two lone pair of electrons on the central atom. So what are they asking? They are asking in which pair there is two lone pairs of electron. Okay, what are the options we have got? We shall just look into it. I3 plus and H2O. We have XeF4 NH3. Then we have H2O with NF3 and SO4 2 minus with H2S. Now, without even finding out the hybridization and number of lone pair electrons, I can directly tell some answers are wrong. Which are those? Here, ammonia in NH3, we know it has got only one lone pair of electron, correct? And XeFO4, that is xenon tetrafluoride, has got two lone pair of electrons. It has got two lone pair of electrons. But what is the question? Which of the following contains both the pair? Should contain two lone pair of electrons. Here, this has both have got lone pair of electrons, but one has got only one. The second one, it has got. Here, xenon has got two lone pair of electrons. Here, nitrogen has got only one lone pair of electrons. So, B is not the option. If you see option C, water and NF3. Nitrogen again has got one lone pair of electron, whereas water, oxygen has got two lone pair of electrons. So again option C also is not the right answer. What about SO4 2 minus and H2S? SO4 2 minus and H2S, we will see whether both have got two lone pair of electrons, or option A where I3 plus and H2O, which has got two lone pair of electrons. Here my answer should be either option D or option A. Now what do I have to find out? I have to find out which pair has got two lone pair of electron. So I can use the formula to first find out the hybridization and see if there are lone pair of electrons. Here in the first one, option A, I have got I3 plus and H2O. H2O, we know it oxygen has got two lone pair of electrons. So I'll have to check only with I3 plus. So I can use the formula first to find out the hybridization and then talk about the lone pair of electron. So what is the formula we have got? That is, to find the hybridization, it is half into what is the central valence electron in the central metal atom. So here iodine only is the central metal atom and the valence electrons are 7. Then we have to add any monovalent atoms which is attached to the central metal atom. Here again valency of iodine also is 1. So I can write this as two monovalent atoms. If one is the central atom, the other two are monovalent atoms which is getting attached. Again, it's a cation, it has got a charge of +1. So I have to do minus the cationic charge. So charge is 1. So -1 plus 0. Okay, that is, it is not an anion. So it is 0. Charge on the anion if they are asking. So here 7 plus 2, that is 7, 8, 9. 9 minus 1 is 8. So this is 8. So you will get it as 4. So it is sp3 hybridization. sp3 hybridization means around the central metal atom there should be 4 more atoms, but I have got only 2 atoms. That is, if iodine is the central metal atom, there are 2 more atoms which should be around it. So I have got total I3. It's like this. It's supposed to be this way, correct? So here I have got only 2. That means the other 2 has got lone pair of electrons. So the number of lone pair of electrons is 4 minus 2, that is 2. 4 hybridized orbital, only 2 atoms are there around the central atom, correct? So 4 minus 2, 2 lone pair of electrons should be there. So I've already got my answer, that is I3 plus with H2O. Now, how do I give this answer within a minute? Of course, all these things, as I am doing it stepwise, it took so much time for me to explain. If you are used to it, you can just do it mentally. Okay, you just have to do, okay, 7 valence electrons, 2 are around, 7 plus 2 minus 1 because it has got plus 1 charge. So, you have to minus the charge on the cation if it is. So, you will get it as 8, 8 by 2 is 4, 4 means sp3 hybridization, but I have only 2 atoms which is there attached to the central atom. So, it should be 2 lone pair of electrons, and water has got 2 lone pair of electrons. This is my correct answer. The others are wrong also, you get to know very easily, because ammonia has got 1, xenon has got 2. Here again water has got 2, nitrogen has got only 1 lone pair of electron. Similarly, if you calculate this, if you still have a doubt on this one whether this is the answer, you can calculate and see just mentally. How I will tell you all. Sulfur has got 6 valence electrons. Oxygen is not monovalent, so I don't have to add it. Then it has got a minus charge. Minus charge means it should be added. So 6 plus 2 is 8. 8 divided by 2 is 4. 4 means sp3 hybridization. 4 atoms should be surrounding sulfur. We have 4 oxygen atoms. So there is no lone pair of electron in sulfate ion. Correct? Now, also in H2S, sulfur valence electron is 6. Monovalent atom we have 2. So add 2. No charge, minus 0 plus 0 it is. No charge to be added or minus there. So it is 6 plus 2 is 8 divided by 2 is equal to 4. Correct? So here sp3 hybridization. sp3 hybridization, but only 2 atoms are around it, so it contains 2 lone pair of electrons. Sulfur in sulfate ion is not having any lone pair of electrons, so obviously it is not option D. So I hope you have understood how to solve such problems. Okay, if you are very good with your calculation, you just don't have to write all of this. You can just calculate mentally and tell which is the correct answer within a minute. Okay, so we'll go to the next question. Next question we have, which of the following statement is correct? Now here I shall read the options for you all. First one, chlorine oxidizes water to oxygen but fluorine does not. Fluorine oxidizes water to oxygen but chlorine does not. Option C, chlorine is a strong oxidizing agent than fluorine. Option D is fluoride is a good oxidizing agent. Now, here from the electrochemical series, we know that fluorine is a very strong oxidizing agent. But here they have given fluoride is a good oxidizing agent. So, of course, option D is not the correct answer. They are asking us to find what? Which statement is correct? Okay, this is wrong. Option C, chlorine is a strong oxidizing agent than fluorine. No, fluorine is the strong, very strong oxidizing agent. So, even this is wrong. So, the correct answer should be between A and B. Now, see, in A and B, the option tells us that chlorine oxidizes water to oxygen, okay, but fluorine does not. And here it tells fluorine oxidizes water to oxygen, but chlorine does not. Which actually oxidizes water to oxygen? If you know the reaction, you can actually answer this question. So, I will write the reaction for you all. Fluorine plus water will form H3O plus ion, fluoride ion, F minus ion, and liberate oxygen gas. Whereas chlorine with water will form HCl and HOCl. So here if you see, fluorine is oxidizing water to liberate oxygen, whereas chlorine is undergoing disproportionation reaction. If you calculate the charge on chlorine here, 0 to minus 1 and 0 to plus 1 is what is happening. Okay. Thus, Which is the correct answer? Fluorine can oxidize water to oxygen, but chlorine does not. Chlorine with water undergoes disproportionation reaction. What is it? Disproportionation reaction. So we'll see the next question. 0.1 mole of XeF6, that is xenon hexafluoride, is treated with 1.8 grams of water. The product obtained is, see, we have three types of products depending on the ratio of xenon hexafluoride and water, which you have already studied. So I'll just write all these equations. Xenon hexafluoride with 1:1 proportion if we take, we get XeOF4 and hydrogen fluoride. Okay. If I take XeF6 with 2 molecules, that is 1:2 ratio if we take, we get XeO2F2 plus 4HF. Now, if we take XeF6 plus 3 molecules of water, I get XeO3 and 6HF. Now, if you know this reaction, it is quite simple. You just have to find out the ratio which is given. 0.1 mole of XeF6 is there. They have given water in grams. What is it? They have given water in grams. Correct? So, we have to find out what is the number of moles of water. So, number of moles of water is equal to, that is, mass by molecular mass. So, mass is 1.8, molecular mass of water is 18, so 0.1. So, 0.1 moles of XeF6 and 0.1 moles of water, which ratio is it in? It's in 1:1 ratio. So, what should be the product form? XeOF4. So, that is option C is your correct answer. Correct? Option C is your correct answer. Next question. In the reaction of gold with aqua regia, oxidation state of nitrogen changes from option A +4 to +2, option B +5 to +2, option C +6 to +4 and option D +3 to +1. Now, what is aqua regia or what is the reaction which is happening here? You need to know to write the oxidation state, because nitrogen can show the oxidation state between +5 and +1. Correct? It can show the oxidation state between +5 and +1. So, here only option C is ruled out, but then it can be any other option. It can be option A, it can be B or it can be D. So, we will write the equation first. So, what is aqua regia? Aqua regia is a mixture of HCl and HNO3, nitric acid and HCl. Correct? Now, what do we have? Gold, and in the solution I have nitrate ion, okay, from nitric acid, H plus ion from both the acids and Cl minus from HCl. Now, what is the reaction? Gold with chloride will form AuCl4 plus nitrate NO3 minus gets converted to NO, okay, and then you get water. Okay. Now, here I have not balanced the equation form. Balancing is not very important. I need the oxidation state of nitrogen from which to which it is getting converted. I will just calculate here. X plus -6, that is -2 into 3 is -6, is equal to -1. X is equal to +5. And here x plus -2 is equal to 0. X is equal to +2. So, from where to where it is changing? From +5 to +2 is the change in oxidation state of nitrogen when gold is reacting with aqua regia. So I hope you understood. You just have to know what is the reactant and what are the products which is formed. Balancing I have not done here because it's not very important for me to calculate the oxidation state. Okay. So next question. The vitamin that helps in clotting of blood. It is direct fact. It is vitamin K which helps in clotting of blood. Next one, the polymer containing 5-methylene group. It should contain CH2 groups. How many? 5. Okay. In its repeating unit. In the repeating unit, 5-methylene groups should be there. So, which is that polymer? Nylon 6,6. Okay. Here the 6,6 numbers have come because it's both the monomers have 6 carbon atoms. So, the monomers of nylon 6,6 are, it is CH2 4 times, NH2, NH2 and CH2 again 4 times, COOH and COOH. So, of course, when it undergoes condensation reaction, there is not only 5, there are more number of methylene groups. Now, we will see dacron. In dacron, we have ethylene glycol reacting with terephthalic acid. Terephthalic acid contains benzene ring. Again, we don't have CH2 group, 5-methylene group. So, dacron also cannot be the answer. Nylon 6,6, we have the monomer which is reacting is caprolactam, which contains the structure CH2, 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 C double bond O, NH. Correct? Here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 CH2 groups are present. So, of course, its polymer also will contain, because we have the breakage of the bond here in the monomer unit. So, we will get CH2 5 NH and C double bond O n number of times. So, my answer is nylon 6. Again, bakelite cannot be the correct answer. Why? Because it has got benzene ring in it. So, it's very easy if you know the polymers. So, thus the answer for this question is nylon 6, which contains 5 CH2 groups. Okay. Next one, cis 1,4 polyisoprene is called. Where have you heard about it? It's again the fact. It is called as natural rubber. So, which is the correct option which we have got? It is option D. Can it be anything else? No. Buna N, Buna S and neoprene. No. Cis 1,4 polyisoprene is nothing but natural rubber. It is the fact which we know here. Next one, which cleansing agent gets precipitated with hard water? Read the question very carefully. Cleansing agent gets precipitated with hard water. Soap and detergent are the two cleansing agent. We will see the options what we have got here. Sodium lauryl sulfate, which is a detergent. Cetyl trimethyl ammonium bromide, again a detergent. Sodium stearate, which is a soap, and sodium dodecyl benzene sulfonate is again a detergent. Now, soap and detergent if we take, which is the one which will form precipitate with hard water? It is soap. Detergents do not form any precipitate even with hard water. Correct? So, which is the soap which we have got here? It is sodium stearate. So, obviously, sodium stearate reacts with calcium or magnesium ions to form a precipitate which we call as scum. SCUM. Okay. So, the correct answer is sodium stearate. Fine. So, next question. Antihistamine among the following is bromophenyramine, amoxicillin, morphine and chloroxylenol. So, what is the question? It is, what is an antihistamine among these four? Option B, you know it is an antibiotic. Morphine is narcotic analgesic. Chloroxylenol is an antiseptic. Correct? So, of course, my answer is bromophenyramine. Okay, it is an antihistamine. So, if you know the examples very clearly, then you can answer this question. Next question which we have is, the mass of AgCl precipitated when a solution containing 11.70 grams of NaCl is added to the solution containing 3.4 grams of AgNO3. Given atomic mass of silver is 108 and atomic mass of sodium is 23. So, what is the question? Read very carefully. You have to find the mass of AgCl which is precipitated when NaCl and AgNO3 are reacting with one another. Okay, so we'll first write the equation. I have AgNO3 plus NaCl will form a precipitate of AgCl and NaNO3 is formed. So, in this equation there is no balancing which is required. It's already a balanced equation, from which you can understand that 1 mole of AgNO3 is reacting with 1 mole of NaCl to give 1 mole of AgCl and 1 mole of NaNO3. But we are not taking 1 mole. What they have given? They have told that when 11 grams of sodium chloride is mixed with 3.4 grams of AgNO3, what is the mass of the precipitate which is formed? So, first we have to find out the mass of 1 mole of all of this. So, that's the reason they have given us the atomic masses here. We'll also see the options what we have got. See, we have got 5.74 grams, 2.87 grams, 1.17 grams and 6.8 grams. We are not getting any idea by just looking into the options here. So, while doing the calculation, we can round off. Of course, first we will find out the mass of 1 mole of AgCl, that is 108 plus 14 plus 48, that is nothing but 170 grams. NaCl is 58.5 grams and AgCl is 143.5 grams, that is 108 plus 35.5. Okay. Now, I have got the mass. Before I calculate what is the mass of AgCl, I will have to know whether AgNO3 or NaCl, which one is the limiting reagent, which is the one which we have in less quantity. Only then I can calculate the mass of AgCl which is formed. Okay. So, I'll just take, see, I've got 11 grams which is excess of NaCl compared to 3.4 grams of AgNO3. So, I'll calculate for 3.4 grams of AgNO3 how much NaCl is required. Okay. So, if I do this, mass of NaCl required to react with 3.4 grams is 3.4 into 58.5 divided by 170. Here you can see 17 ones are 17 twos are 34. Just move the points. Okay. Move the points so that it gets cancelled, and then if you calculate here, you will get it as 1.17 grams. Okay. So, 3.4 grams of AgNO3 requires 1.17 grams of NaCl, but we have in lot excess, we have 11 grams. So, which is the limiting reagent? Of course, AgNO3 is the limiting reagent. So, AgNO3 is limiting reagent. So, to find out the mass of AgCl, I will have to use the mass of AgNO3 only, because that is the one which is limiting reagent. So 170 grams of AgNO3 will produce 143.5 grams of AgCl. So 3.4 grams will produce how much? So it is 3.4 into 143.5 divided by 170. Okay. So again, I'll move one point over here. So it is 10 to the power or 10 to the power 1. 2 I will get, and then this when I move it up, it will come it as 10 to the power minus 2. So I'll move 2 points over here to remove the powers. 1.4 into 2, which is 2.8 grams. So your answer is 2.8 grams, which is option B. So I hope you have understood this. For this question, you might require more than a minute, but then you can balance it with some other questions which is factual. Okay. So I hope you have understood how to solve or how to even round off and come to the conclusion without even using the calculator. Okay. The next one is 12th question. We'll read the question here. Two particles A and B are in motion. If the wavelength associated with A is 33.33 nanometer, the wavelength associated with B, whose momentum is 1/3 of A, is. So here, what is the relation which you have to see? It's the wavelength with the momentum. There are two particles A and B. Particle A wavelength is given, particle B wavelength you have to find out, but we know the momentum of particle B. Okay, it is 1/3 of particle A. So which is the relation which you are supposed to use here? Lambda is equal to H by P, correct? Now, I'll just write the ratio. Lambda A by lambda B is equal to H and H gets cancelled. I can write it as PB by PA. Okay. Now here, what they have told is momentum of B is 1/3 of A. So PB is equal to 1/3 PA. Okay, and lambda is 33.33, nano is 10 to the power minus 9 meters. Lambda B is equal to 1/3 PA by PA. PA and PA gets cancelled, so it is 1/3 which remains. So lambda B is equal to 33.33 into 10 to the power minus 9 into 3 I will get, which is 99.99 into 10 to the power minus 9. Of course, I don't have that answer here. I have 1 into 10 power minus 7, 1 into 10 power minus 8, 1.25 in 10 power minus 7 and 2.5. So of course, B and C are ruled out. Either it should be A or D, but I should take care with the powers. One is 10 power minus 7, one is 10 power minus 8. So I'll move the points here. If I move 2 points, I'll get it as 0.9 into 10 to the power minus 7. Correct? And 0.9 is very close to 1. So it is 1 into 10 to the power minus 7. So the answer is option D. It cannot be option A, because if I move this 1 point, it becomes 10 power minus 8, but then it will become 10. I have 1.0 as the answer here. So option A, it cannot be the answer. Okay. So I hope you have understood how to solve this. Next one, the first ionization enthalpy of the following elements are in the order. So we'll see what are the elements which is given in the options here. We'll see if it is common again. We have carbon, nitrogen, silicon, phosphorus. Same 4 elements is there in option B, C as well as D. So which are the elements which we have got? We have got carbon, nitrogen, silicon and phosphorus. So how are they placed in our periodic table? I have carbon and nitrogen next to one another. And what about silicon and phosphorus? Where is it present? Silicon is there in group 14, that is under carbon only, the same group. Okay, this is 14th group and this is group 15 what we have got. So here we have phosphorus. Now what is the trend along the period and down the group for ionization enthalpy? along the period, if we go, ionization enthalpy, what happens to the atomic size? Atomic size goes on reducing, so ionization enthalpy should increase along the period. Down the group, if I take, size goes on increasing and the ionization enthalpy will go on decreasing. So using this relation, can I tell which has got the highest ionization enthalpy? Of course, it is carbon which has got the highest ionization enthalpy because it's in this corner. Down the group, ionization enthalpy reduces. Along this side also it reduces. So the highest ionization enthalpy should be of nitrogen. So you search the option where nitrogen has got the highest ionization enthalpy. You have two options, option B and option D. So now we have to see the next one also where it is, which one has got the highest ionization enthalpy. So after this, if you take the first row, because these two are having less than carbon and nitrogen, it is known. So after nitrogen, the one with the highest ionization enthalpy, just next to nitrogen will be carbon. So again we'll see option B and D. Again carbon is there in both the option. So my answer is dependent on whether it is silicon or phosphorus. So when I come to this particular group, phosphorus has got higher ionization enthalpy compared to silicon. Correct? So after carbon will be phosphorus and last will be silicon. So which is the correct answer? It is option D. So I hope you understood how we have related. The first corner one has got the highest ionization enthalpy because along the period also that is the highest. As we come down the group also that will be the highest only. Okay. Then we'll go to the first period. Just next to that we have carbon. Then we have phosphorus. The last one will be the silicon. Okay, that's how you can tell about the first ionization enthalpy of these elements. So option D. This is one method of solving. There are different methods for solving such problems. Okay. Next one, solubility of AgCl is least in 0.1 molar NaCl, 0.1 molar BaCl2, pure water and 0.1 molar AlCl3, aluminium chloride. So how is solubility related to molarity? See, you have molarity here, okay, and they are asking the solubility of AgCl. So how can you tell this? Now here what are the options we have got is 0.1 molar NaCl, okay, then I have 0.1 molar BaCl2 and I have got 0.1 molar AlCl3. And of course, I have got even pure water. Pure water solubility cannot be least there. When will the solubility reduce? It is when there is common ion. When common ion effect is there, solubility of the weak electrolyte can be reduced. Correct? Again, molarity, if you see, it's all the same. But what is the difference? Here it can give 1 mole of chloride ion. Here it can give 2 moles of chloride ion. Here it can give 3 moles of chloride ion. So, of course, when I AgCl if I take, I get Ag plus and Cl minus, and AlCl3 if I take, I get Al plus 3 plus 3Cl minus. So, common ions which produces excess faster, it is AlCl3. So, the least solubility will be in AlCl3. So, the correct answer is 0.1 molar AlCl3, aluminium chloride. So, I hope you understood this particular problem. Next one, which of the following equation does not represent Charles' law for the given mass of gas at constant pressure? So, what is Charles' law? You have to know. Okay, first you have to know the mathematical form of Charles' law. We'll see the options what we have got. V by T is equal to K, log K is equal to log V plus log T, log V is equal to log K plus log T, or d ln V by dt is equal to 1 by T. 4 options they have given. One thing which is in common is we have volume, temperature and the constant K. Now what is Charles' law? It is V by T is equal to K if K is a constant. Correct? What is Charles' law state? It states that at constant pressure, volume of a given mass of a gas is directly proportional to absolute temperature. That means mathematical form I can write it as V by T is equal to K when pressure is kept constant. Okay. So if you look into this equation, the first option is right. Now different forms of writing this, I shall write it down here. V is equal to K into T I can write. Correct. I can apply log for this equation. I'll get it as log V is equal to log K. Okay. Log A into B is log A plus log B. So I can write it as log T. Now I'll just rearrange this. So from this one, this equation you can see it is exactly option C. Option C also is right. Now I'll rearrange this because log K is there on the left hand side. I'll just write in that format. Log K is equal to, it will be log V minus log T. Okay. So I have got an idea which is the correct option for this question, which does not represent, see, log V minus log T, but here it is log V plus log T. So the answer should be B. I still have a doubt whether D can be the correct answer. So I will have to differentiate the equation to get it in that form. So what I will do is I'll write it in the form of natural logarithm. ln V is equal to ln K plus ln T. Okay. Now if I differentiate this, it will be d ln V by dt. This is a constant, so 0 plus, I'll get it as 1 by T. So of course d ln V by dt is equal to 1 by T. Even that is the correct answer. The wrong one is log K is equal to log V plus log T, but the actual one which should have been was log K is equal to log V minus log T. So they are asking us which does not represent. So option B is the correct answer. I hope you have understood. Next one, which is the most suitable reagent for the following conversion? We'll see this equation, what exactly it has got. I have got a double bond. Also I have got a carbonyl group. Okay. But if you see the product here, the double bond is as it is and the carbonyl group also is as it is. So what is the thing which is changing is the methyl group which is attached to the carbonyl group. Now the methyl group which is attached to the carbonyl group is removed here. It is completely come out, isn't it? And it has got converted to OH group. Now which of the reagents if I use, this can happen? It's what I want to answer. Here first option what we have is Tollens reagent. Tollens reagent is a reducing agent. That means it will oxidize carbonyl group. We do not have oxidation here. We have got OH group, that is carboxylic acid group we have got, COOH group, and the CH3 group is completely removed. Removal of CH3 group Tollens reagent does not do. So that is the wrong answer. Option B, benzoyl peroxide. Again, this has no relation here. Benzoyl peroxide will not convert or remove CH3 group. Next we have is iodine with NaOH. Of course, iodine with NaOH, we call it as iodoform reactions. In iodoform reactions, the methyl group which is attached to the carbonyl group is the one which is removed. So option C is the correct answer. Whereas option D, if you see, it is tin with NaOH. Again, tin with NaOH cannot remove the CH3 group or the methyl group which is attached to the carbonyl group. So the reaction is iodoform reaction. You get the sodium salt of carboxylic acid, which on reacting with HCl you will get carboxylic acid. And the other product here formed is CHI3, that is iodoform. So it is iodoform reaction which can give this product. So option C is the correct answer. Okay. So next question what we have is, which of the following is least soluble in water at 298 Kelvin? We have got all different types of amines. Here I have got primary amine. This is secondary amine. And here I have got tertiary amine, and here I have got aniline. So what is the question? Which of the following is least soluble in water? Of course, the answer is aniline, because it will not form any hydrogen bond with water, whereas all the other three, that is primary, secondary and tertiary, can form hydrogen bond with water and can be soluble, whereas aniline will not dissolve in water at 298 Kelvin. Which do you think will not dissolve in water at 298 Kelvin? The answer is aniline, because of its high molecular mass. It is not soluble in water, whereas aliphatic, what you have got, aliphatic amines, that is primary, secondary and tertiary amines, can form hydrogen bond with water and can be soluble. Okay, whereas it is aromatic amine and also the molecular mass is really high. That's the reason it is insoluble in water at 298 Kelvin. Okay, next question. If aniline is treated with 1:1 mixture of concentrated nitric acid and concentrated sulfuric acid, para-nitroaniline and meta-nitroaniline are formed nearly in equal amount. This is due to, we'll just read the options. Okay, meta-directing property of NH2 group, meta and para-directing property of NH2 group, protonation of NH2 which causes deactivation of benzene ring, isomerization of some para-nitroaniline into meta-nitroaniline. So what is the correct answer here? They are asking why are we going to get para-nitroaniline and meta-nitroaniline in nearly equal amounts when it is treated with 1:1 mixture of concentrated nitric acid and H2SO4. Okay, what happens here is aniline, what is there? In the presence of acid, it gets converted into anilinium ion, that is NH3+. So anilinium ion is deactivating and meta-directing group. Thus, when aniline reacts with 1:1 ratio, you will get meta-nitroaniline para-nitroaniline as well as orthonitroaniline, but the ratio is completely different. Meta you get it as 47%, para you get it 51% and ortho is only 2%. So here it is nearly equal when you take 1:1 mixture, because anilinium ion is a meta-directing group and a deactivating group. Okay, so which is the correct answer? Protonation of NH2 which causes deactivation of benzene ring is the correct answer for the question. Why not meta-directing property of NH2 group? It is not only the meta-directing property which is happening here. It is first the protonation of NH2 group will happen, because of which the benzene ring gets deactivated, and as well as because it is meta-directing group, only because of that you will get such reaction. Okay, so option C is the correct answer. Next one, in nucleic acid the nucleotides are joined together by phosphoester linkage. Then we have phosphodisulfide linkage, phosphodiester linkage, sulfodiester linkage. So it is fact which you need to know, between the nucleotides you have phosphodiester linkage. Okay, so it is option C. Next question, which of the following is generally water insoluble? Amylose of starch is soluble in water, vitamin C is soluble in water, glycine is again soluble in water. So we have fibrous protein which is insoluble in water. Okay, keratin, myosin are all fibrous protein which is not soluble in water.